Hello and welcome, Russell Carr here. All right, so if you're struggling to understand what OSHA's TRIR and DART are all about and you're looking for answers, you've come to the right place, because I created this video to build on the success of our #1 Google ranked blog post, which has literally helped thousands of people over the years to understand everything you need to know about these two critical OSHA metrics. But before getting into that, make sure to subscribe to our channel to get more free educational content on the OSHA and EPA regulations that impact your company, and also click on that notifications bell so that you're notified every time that we upload new content, which will be 2 to 3 times per month. All right, thanks, and I'll see you on the other side. All right, hello and welcome back to this video called OSHA's TRIR and DART Explained. So, whether you're trying to fill out your OSHA 300 logs for the first time, or maybe you're trying to fill out a client's, vendor qualification form that's asking about your TRIR and DART, don't worry even if you have absolutely no idea what these terms mean. By the end of the video, you'll have a much clearer idea about both of them and what they mean and how they impact your company and your safety program and so forth. Also, before jumping into this, like I mentioned in the beginning, this video is actually based on our world #1 Google ranked blog post that covers the same subject. We've been ranked #1 or 2 on Google, for about 4 or 5 years. So we literally get hundreds of people reading this blog post across the world every single week, and thousands every single year, which we're really proud about that. So I wanted to mention that. But in order to make the information a little bit more understandable and digestible and kind of remove the complexity about these terms, we decided to create this video. All right, so with that said, let's go ahead and jump into this. So here's what you're going to learn today. #1, we're going to talk about the purpose of TRIR and DART. Then we're going to talk about the more in depth about the definitions of each and other terms that are relevant to that. And then we're going to talk about, how to calculate each. So when you're filling out your OSHA 300 logs, there's formulas that you have to use to calculate each, and we're going to go into detail about that. Then we're going to talk about the risks that your company and your employees face for failing to manage TRIR and DART. It's important to talk about these risks. If you've watched any of our videos or seen our website, you know that I like to talk about this. It helps to set the stage and get you and your company and your staff motivated to take action. So we're going to definitely cover that. And then we'll end off by talking about next steps. What steps can you and your company actually take to better understand TRIR and DART and how to control them and manage each? And by the end of the video, you'll have a much clearer idea about what I mean by that. All right, so let's talk about the purpose of TRIR and DART. So basically, these are key OSHA metrics, and they allow for 2 things. #1, to quantify and evaluate your company's health and safety performance. And #2, compares your company's health and safety performance to others in your industry. So, every industry is broken down by SIC code and NAICS codes. When you report you complete your OSHA 300 logs with these calculations for TRIR and DART, all your competitors are in there, all the different industries are in there, and it allows everybody to compare all these different companies, their health and safety performance. These are key OSHA metrics that allow that safety performance to be measured and compared and so forth. And the other purpose of TRIR and DART are, your OSHA 300 logs. So just real briefly, if you don't know what OSHA 300 logs are, these are OSHA's workplace injury and illness logs that have to be completed every calendar year. So companies who meet OSHA's record keeping and reporting requirements, in other words, OSHA 300 requirements, must calculate their TRIR and DART scores and report again on the 300 log and the 300A log. And the screenshot on the right is what the 300A form looks like and how the calculation is made, but we'll talk in more detail about those calculations here in a moment. All right, so now let's move into definitions. And before getting into the definition of TRIR and DART, we need to define what's called a recordable incident or a recordable case. And this is really, really important to understand what this means. So in other words, not all workplace injuries and illnesses need to be factored into these calculations in your OSHA 300 log. So here's a simple definition of a recordable incident or a recordable case. So it's any work-related injury or illness that requires more than basic, quote unquote, first aid care, and also results in either a death, a loss of consciousness, restriction of work or motion, or transfer to another job. So in other words, if you have an injury at your workplace and you can't handle it with, a Band-Aid or rest or something simple, and you have to send somebody off to see a doctor or off to the clinic or off to the hospital, it's probably going to be a recordable incident and needs to be factored into all these calculations in your OSHA 300 log. So it's related to this. It's really important to understand that you don't include non-recordable cases in your calculations, because when you do that, it can unnecessarily inflate the numbers, which can trigger all kinds of problems like inspections and so forth. So, we've worked with a lot of companies that made the mistake of over-reporting because they just didn't understand what a recordable incident or a recordable case is. And they reported other, injuries and so forth that just didn't meet that criteria. So it's really important to understand what a recordable is. The definition can get a lot more complex than this depending on the circumstances, but this is a good baseline definition and something, probably one of the most important things of this whole video and this whole concept is what a recordable incident is. All right, let's talk about the definition of TRIR. TRIR actually stands for total recordable incident rate. So in summary, it's going to talk about the incident rate of injuries and illnesses at your company. In summary, that's what that means. That's what TRIR is going to do. Definition of DART. This is a little bit more complex, so let's just walk through this. So the D stands for days or, time. The A stands for away or days away from work. The R stands for restricted or days of restricted work. So if somebody has an injury and they can't, handle their typical normal work tasks and they get restricted, to prevent aggravation of that injury and allow for recovery, that's restricted. And finally, the T stands for transfer, so days of job transfer. So related to restricted, if an injury means that somebody, again, can't perform their normal tasks, maybe you need to reassign them to something less strenuous like an administrative task. So again, any sort of recordable injury or illness that results in days away, restricted, or transfer, that's going to get factored into your DART calculation. And we'll talk more about that in a minute, what that looks like. All right, so I haven't said that. Let's go ahead and talk about calculation. So how do you calculate TRIR and DART on your OSHA 300 log? So the screenshot on the right shows the 300A, but you also have to do your OSHA 300. Let's talk about what those calculations look like and how that works. So we'll begin with the TR calculation. So here's the actual formula to make that calculation. So it's the total number of recordable cases, like we talked about before, times the number 200,000. So 200,000 is OSHA's annual hours benchmark. And I'm going to talk more about that in a minute, what that means. Then you divide that by the total hours worked by all employees at your company for that specific calendar year. And that's all employees, from field employees, factory workers, to administrative workers. You got to add up all those annual hours and include that in the calculation. All right, now let's talk about how we calculate DART. So DART's a little bit different. So again, this is the total number of recordable cases that actually resulted in days either away, restricted, or transferred, times that 200,000 annual hour benchmark divided by total hours worked by all employees in that year for the company. So DART's digging a little bit deeper, if you will. It's looking for those injuries and illnesses, those recordable cases that were a little bit more severe, that resulted in days away from work or restricted work activities for that impacted employee. So hopefully that makes sense. That's how it's different than TRIR, which is only looking for the number of recordable cases that happened. All right, so having said that, let's go ahead and talk about the risks that you and your company face for failing to manage TRIR and DART. And obviously, the most important and obvious thing are high injury and or illness rates for your employees. So if you and your company and your staff and your management team aren't paying close attention to your injury rates and your scores, then that's going to put your employees at completely unacceptable risk, which you can't afford to let that happen to your employees. You have not only a moral obligation to prevent that from happening, but also a legal obligation to prevent that from happening. So these metrics need to be top of mind at your company at all times. Number two, OSHA's 300 log electronic reporting requirement. So this is a new requirement that went into effect several years ago, very controversial. So as of the implementation of this requirement, you have to elect, if you're in certain high hazard industries, let me say that, and just about every manufacturing and industrial type company is, and falls under those SIC codes that have to electronically report every year. So in other words, you fill out your OSHA 300 logs, you have to electronically report that to OSHA so that they get that data. And what can end up happening is that high scores can actually trigger enforcement inspections. So typically, historically, they're really looking at your DART score. If you get a DART above 7, historically, that could put you in a pool of companies that are going to get inspected by OSHA. And keep in mind that these are going to be what are called comprehensive inspections. So these are inspections that are going to look at all aspects of your safety program, your written programs, your training records. They're going to walk through your facility to look for all the physical health and safety hazards that exist at your company. They're going to do a top to bottom comprehensive inspection that can literally take days depending on your company. And when they do that, they're going to find violations, and those are going to result in fines that, can very easily run into the tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. We actually had this happen at one of our clients. They had a DART score above 7, and we later found out that, prior to hiring us, they had included non-recordable injuries and illnesses, injuries, I think in their case, in their DART score, which inflated it, and they had to do their electronic reporting, and lo and behold, that triggered an inspection and some big fines. So that's what can happen. So keep that in mind. Again, yet another reason to really keep TRIR and DART top of mind at your company. And related to the electronic reporting requirements that I just talked about, companies with high injury rates now face additional risks, including the fact that customers, competitors, and employees can now potentially view, scores. If you have low scores, you're in good shape. If you have high scores, you could be in trouble. In other words, customers of yours or companies that you might want to work with, they might refuse to work with your company if you have high scores, because if you think about it, if they can go to work for a competitor who has lower scores, why wouldn't they do that to, reduce their own risk profile? And similar to that, employees might refuse to work for your company. So, we all know about labor shortages going on, how tough it is to find good people. I mean, if they can go to work for a company with low injury rates compared to one with high injury rates, that's kind of a no-brainer, right? They're going to go to work for the company with lower injury rates typically. So very real risks that companies who fail to keep these metrics top of mind can face. All right, so having said that, let's talk about next steps. So I've alluded to the importance of managing TRIR and DART. How do you actually do that? So the only way to really manage and reduce TRIR and DART scores is to actually implement and manage an OSHA compliance program. So, most companies that visit our website, they don't have a safety program. They're looking for help. Some of you may already have a safety program and you're going to be beyond baseline OSHA compliance. But if you don't have a safety program in place, that's where you need to begin. That's the most important thing to do, is to learn about what the requirements are, implement a program, manage that program, train your employees, conduct routine inspections, and everything else. So having said that, go ahead and check out the link below this video, where we're going to offer you a free ebook that talks about how to build a safety program from scratch. This is also based on another #1 ranked Google blog post that we put up a few years back, talking about how to build a safety program from scratch, designed for small companies. We turn that into an ebook. So go ahead and click on that link. You can download that ebook. It's got some really good basic information that you can actually absorb, follow, and act on to start, achieving compliance at your company. Also, we'll include an email in the description below. Feel free to contact us if you have any questions, whether you just have something that you want to ask about, or maybe you want help building a safety program at your company. We offer on-site services. We offer virtual services and do-it-yourself programs that we'd love to tell you about. All right, also let me end off by saying that if you like what you learned today, go ahead and subscribe to our channel to get more free educational content. Go ahead and click on that notifications bell so that you're notified every time we upload new content, which will be 3 to 4 times per month. All right, thanks for listening and watching, and hope to hear from you soon.